for volunteering their time and sharing their amazing knowledge with us on, how they've grown their listing business to date. And we've just come up with some general questions for them, and I'm just going to ask one, and then they're each going to answer, right? So why don't we just start off with a little bit of an intro, kind of like a little bit about your real estate career, when you were licensed, what your team structure looks like, and what did your sales look like in like the past year or 2021, or however you look at your business. I'm going to go with Roger because he looks like not sure.
Okay. I have the Wilpet Group. We have 5 agents total. We're an urban focus group, so we're out of the urban living office downtown, and we do about high 30s, 40 million.
Awesome. Thank you. Jen, what about you?
Jennifer Courtney Group. We are out of Marysville, so our average list price is a lot less.
Gotta ramp up those units to keep up. I know.
I'm a newly formed group. Last year was my first full year with the team. We have myself, another full-time agent, a part-time agent, and 2 admins. And then we did about, in the last 12 months, about 11 million. We're on track to double that for this year.
Wow. Awesome. Steve, what about you?
Steve Smith and Associates. We have a Smith George team in Plain City with an office there, and I also have a office in Shawnee Hills. We have 8 licensed agents. Some are part-time, some are full-time. We did about 28 million, I think it was, or 38 million, I'm sorry, last year as a group, and got licensed in 2004. Was a rookie of the year for HER back in 2004, part-time. And then walked away from a good 6-figure job and been doing this ever since. So.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your top 3 listing sources and maybe systems that you might have around those. Like, where is your business coming from? I'm going to start with you. Yeah.
Listing sources. So really, I've kind of identified a very small market that I like very heavily focus on. So, like the downtown urban market, but even more specifically, like the Arena District. And so a lot of mine comes from like very heavy marketing of that specific area. So, just sold postcards, market update postcards, quarterly postcards, just seasonal things, so lots of postcards, and then a lot of social media advertising, all that good stuff as well. There are a couple buildings that I target very heavily, and so being able to do like events and things like that there. So a lot of it is just from my marketing and then word of mouth, because these buildings are very close knit, kind of easy once you get in there. Neighbors talk to neighbors. I live there myself. So they see me around, things like that. So that's really been my top kind of source. It's just been a very heavy marketing on a very specific area that I've identified, and then word of mouth from that, referrals, things like that, and just staying top of mind.
Yeah, how many postcards would you say you would hit a certain area, like you said, your building? Like, are you doing it monthly? Are you doing it weekly?
So we send at least 1 postcard. So we always do it just sold for everything we sell. Fortunately, we have about at least 1 sale a month in that area. If we don't, then I do like a market update postcard of other units that have sold or things like that. So we're trying to hit like specifically the Arena District and some surrounding buildings at least once a month, but closer to 2 times a month. I mean, we're very, very heavily marketing. And that's all. A lot of print marketing still. We are still doing social media advertising and advertising through other things as well, but a lot of print marketing for this area.
Are you doing that just by building when you get a sale in that building? Is that what you?
Yeah, so there's 3 buildings that I grouped together essentially in the Arena District of Park Edge, North Bank, and Vernon Square. And so I kind of grouped them together as one. It's all in the immediate Arena District. So I kind of grouped them together as one. So I have that mailing list for those 3 buildings. So everything that gets sold right there goes to all 3 of those buildings automatically. Higher end sales will market even and extend that a little bit more to some of the outside buildings, which will include, a little bit wider range, but still all within probably 3/4 of a mile.
Do you, your postcards, does somebody put that together for you? Are you doing that in-house or you have them printed someplace else?
Yeah,
Like,
we
what's that?
so I have a marketing person that does all my marketing in-house. And then I work with Minuteman Press
Yeah.
to print
Okay.
and send those
Great
out.
prices, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've always just really liked them. Pretty much what we do is we send the postcard, say, please send it to this mailing list. They know my mailing list. If it's a different mailing list we've used, we can say, we'd like to expand it to include 500 plus more units in the closest vicinity. They've just always done a really good job working with
And
our
most
title
time-
company. So,
Say most time you can get your title company to split that cost with you.
yeah,
You do it through the title company, then they'll send it to Minuteman.
yeah, exactly. And so they pay for all the mailing lists and things like that, just for, very picky with how the marketing looks. I don't ever co-brand or anything like that, but they do pay for all mailing lists to go through your title company.
Awesome. Jen, what about you? I know all of your businesses are vastly different, so it's
Yeah.
cool to
Well, mine's
hear.
actually very similar.
Ah,
My
oh, that's
main
cool.
source of listings is my farm, there in the farm.
Okay.
Yes, so we don't actually do a ton of mailings. We do some just solds in there, but most of mine is just being out in the community. We send out like a save the date at the beginning of the year for community events for the whole year. Everybody in the community gets those, our logo's on it. Probably for the last 8 years, it was just me doing it, paying for all the expenses and doing all the events. As of last year, I now have a lender and a landscaping company that live in the community that help sponsor events as well. So the 3 of our logos are on there, goes out at the beginning of the year. Here's all the community events for the whole year. They know who puts it on. And I just go to the events basically and just being out in the neighborhood, hanging out at the playground with kids, things like that. And then I would say from that, all the referrals that come in from.
Wow.
from
How
that,
many do
my
you
students.
farm typically?
Like how many are in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
So
the
there's
neighborhood.
350 houses in my primary farm. That's not majority of them.
Steve? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Edith.
Sorry, how much houses would you suggest to like start out when it comes to farming? Because I recently started and I'm curious.
It really depends on what you want to do. I mean, are you farming by just sending postcards, send them to everybody in that specific area? If you're focusing on a lot of mailings, I would say you can really do as many as you want. The thing that you have to think about when you're doing mailings and door hangers and stuff is you can't just do it one time. You can't just put it out there one time and expect results. You have to be using the same people over and over and over again to keep top of mind. So depending on the expense and the amount of money that you want to spend, you could pick a neighborhood that has 400 houses or something so that you can continue to, farm the same people and put your name out there over again. So if you just choose one that has 200 and another one has 200, and you just keep doing that, you get kind of lost in what everybody else is doing too. So you need to make sure that they're seeing you over and over.
A lot of people sending out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's like-
Yeah, if you're on a budget, I would tell you that there's a couple of philosophies. You want to definitely try to look at a neighborhood that's not 12 realtors living in that neighborhood,
Right.
which there's a lot of realtors around.
Yeah.
So if you're doing Scioto Reserve, 17 people are farming that. But if you're in a smaller neighborhood that has a main thoroughfare and you're on a real tight budget, I would farm just the main drag and pick 50 houses and market that. Then you get your first sign planted in there. All of a sudden they're seeing your name. Now you can expand to the whole neighborhood. So you've got your first hook in the neighborhood. So from a farming standpoint.
I think what really benefited me from the beginning is my neighborhood that I started farming was a new build community. Nobody wants to farm in new build communities because they're all just moved in. Well, guess what? Most of those people that moved in and built did it without an agent. So they don't have somebody that they're using.
Good idea.
So if
That's a
you
great
start
point.
That's a good idea.
so if you start from the very beginning, when they move in, welcome to your new house. Then a year later, happy anniversary, and then you start ramping that up. By the time people are moving, guess who they're calling? Because they didn't have somebody help them build that house.
That's smart. All right, Steve, what about you? Top listing source.
Listings for me comes from my sphere. They can't tell you, you have to really pound your sphere. You do a great job and you never talk to those people again, and they never hear from you. That's just leaving money on the table for somebody else, and everybody knows where they want more than you. So as far as realtors go, so it's very competitive out there. We talk a lot about farming. I'm in a referral club, so we refer business back and forth to each other. The gal, I can't think of her name, that was talking about the top referral, for things that you refer, that's exactly what I do. I have the top 25 people that I use. I have a stockbroker, or, you know, and I have an insurance guy, and I have a landscaper, and I have a contractor. I have, you know, all these people that are in my top sphere that multiple refer me. I mean, the stockbroker attorney is another good one. If you can find somebody that doesn't, you know, already refer business to people. So you have to convince them that you're worth the referral, the risk, because if a stockbroker has $5 million of someone's money and you blow it, that's bad on him or her. So I would say that you definitely want to try to, you know, go after your core people, and spend 3 times more much money on them, kind of staying in front of them, than you would just your regular database. I hit my whole database quarterly. I also farm a whole, half of a township in Concord Township, so stay the hell out of there. But,
Yes, no new building.
I do farm those busy roads, because people say, I see your sign everywhere, and they don't see it everywhere. They just see it on
They
those
see
busy
it over
roads.
and over.
Every night going home and coming to work, they see my sign, because you're on that busy little street. You can do the same thing in your little subdivision. So don't give up on farming because it's expensive. Just farm a small corridor, a vein that goes into a busy, big place.
Consistency, I've always told people, like with that, just with anything really, but with marketing, farming an area, it's like consistency, because I forget, but one of these like Zooms that we had with Dana, they said like how many touches it takes for people to remember, especially when you get, you know, a ton of people marketing in this market, you know, a lot of realtors. So you get a lot of marketing, you know, these people are receiving postcards from everyone all the time. It like takes a certain number of touches. So like, you know, once you get the listing, you want to, you know, if it's a new listing postcard, or if it's, you know, having your sign out there and then marketing afterward, it really is consistency. I know like when I first started, I thought like, if I sent like 1 round, it didn't get a call, I was like, oh, that sucks, you know?
Right.
But it really takes a lot more than that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know you've arrived when somebody that you have no idea who they are. I know who you are. Oh, Jesus. You got off the shop. You know, they get your postcard, or they've got your magnet calendar. That's one of the best expenses I think you can do, is do those little calendars for the fridge. Stays up there for, you know, 12 months. And people will say, in the grocery store, I know who you are. And it's like, well, okay, great. How do we know each other?
Yeah, something else I'll add to is a lot more broad. I'm jumping ahead, but something I preach to my team all the time is value is greater than sales. So if you're constantly focused on the sales, you know, it makes it a lot more difficult. If you're focused on where you're adding value, are you adding value to your book club, to your church group? Are you adding value to your community? Are you adding value to your family, your friends, your sphere? If you're out there adding some sort of value, whether it's an event, whether it's market updates, whether it's taking good care of your clients, because just sticking a sign in their yard and going on about your business, like, oh, they're like, well, they sold my house, but like they didn't answer their phone, they didn't do this and that. I mean, you're adding value just by being great at listing or helping them, you know, buy a house or whatever. So all these things that you're doing to add value get you referrals, get your name out there. I mean, so if you're focusing on where am I adding value out there in my community, the sales come. It's not just like beating the ground, let me sell your house, let me do this, you know.
Do something they're not expecting to do. Send a pizza or flowers or something to them they're not expecting, and you know, they'll remember that long after the sale.
One of the things my marketing person actually came up with this a while back, and I thought it was a really good idea. When I lived in Victoria Village, it wouldn't work for the condos now, but when I was marketing heavily toward Victoria Village, mostly single family homes, we had teamed up with a local painter that was doing offering power washing, and he told us that we could put like a $50 off coupon on a postcard, and we were able to send that to everyone, and like it was our spring cleaning thing. We had teamed up with this local company and then sent that out, and we weren't marketing, because that's what we try to do with our seasonal updates that we do quarterly, have nothing to do with sales. We don't want them to be showing off sales. I think it's good that people know you sell in the area, but it's also good to send other things, like I said, market updates, or like this had nothing to do with it. You know, this was just like spring cleaning, had a coupon for $50 off of power washing. So trying to add value from that. So I do think it's important to sometimes kind of steer away from all the sales side, because I think that's what everyone focuses on. You know, obviously having sales and being able to market those sales is important. But I think like you were saying, adding value in other ways is certainly important too.
Huge, yeah, okay, good stuff. Do you think the rising interest rates are going to affect your listing business?
Personally, no, I do not think so. I think, I'm in a condo market. Our lifespan on these condos is 2 to 4 years, some less. We get a lot of transient, lifestyles. I would say half of the people that buy in my neighborhood are relocating from somewhere else, and they will move no matter what. If they have to move, they're being relocated, or they just want to try something new. Full amenity buildings like Parks Edge and these buildings, a lot of people move to right off the bat just when they're moving to a new city, and then they kind of take those times that they're living there to explore other neighborhoods they might want to live in. So I personally don't think it'll affect mine, and just the price point, I don't think it'll really affect, too much, honestly.
I agree. I was looking back at my most recent listings, and majority of mine have all been people that are relocating. I mean, I
Oh,
think
wow.
with being in Marysville, with having Honda and Scott's, people are always moving for jobs. So, and I think that the majority of mine recently have been people moving out of state, so they have to move. So I don't think it's going to, yes, it's gonna lessen maybe a couple people that were going to upgrade or downsize or whatever, and, think, well, now interest rates are high, but that's not majority of it.
That's good.
Listings are
Do
just
you-
not great.
From the values being at, it should still probably level out from a seller standpoint, maybe.
Sorry, this is just about the relocation because you both mentioned it. Do you guys have any sort of material marketing, anything for like those big businesses that you're around for like relocating?
I try not to work with I will work with relocation, but they also are gonna take a enormous chunk of your commission every time. And I just did my first relocation, it's 39%, taking like a lot. So, I don't necessarily market to them. A lot of the people in my building and in my neighborhood are relocated, they might be getting a job in Dublin or another city, but I'm not working with a relocation company on that. There are a couple that put me in touch and they're like, we're being relocated by this company, and they'll put me in touch and then I will work with them. I don't want someone else to get it, so I will do it, but I'm not necessarily marketing to relocation companies for that very reason. I mean, they take anywhere from 30 to 55% of your commission.
I have lost maybe 2 listings before because I wasn't on the preferred list of realtors for a relocation company. But I've also had people who chose not to take the benefits of the relocation company because they were in my farm and they wanted to use me to list anyways. So I think it all balances out. I mean, like you were saying, they take so much of your commission that, I mean, how bad do you want to sign in the yard, for the neighbors to see or anything like that? But there are companies that you can get in contact with to get on their list. But I think actually I'm seeing a lot of them going away from like where you have to use a specific person.
Yeah, all the ones that I've worked with have allowed my neighbors to identify me. Like, they've reached out and said, we're being relocated. Like, they reached out to me first, said, we're being relocated, we want to use you, but we are going to be working with the reload company for the benefits of, and they're like enormous benefits. I mean, I have a client right now that's moving to Boston, and like, they're going to buy down their rate, they're going to pay for their move. I mean, he's going to get like 30 grand. And I mean, so that'd be nice if I was worth it to him to not, but I'm not. So, I'm like, well, whatever.
You are.
So it's, I told him, I said, yes, I'm willing to work with your company, but he just identified, me, that he's like, I want to work with him, he's willing to go through the process with you. And so that's something you can do. If you know there are people that are relocating, you can let them know that you're willing to work with the company on it. It does, kind of stink again, you are giving up a solid chunk of the commission. The way I look at it for my building specifically was like, they're going to move regardless. And we only, in my building specifically, we only have like 178 units. So for someone else to get the sale there, and I generally am able to get both sides of my transaction. So for someone else to get the sale there, I would rather take a hit on one side of the commission and get this, still have the sale under my name, potentially still get the buyer.
Yeah, good advertising. Steve, what about you? How will it affect your
I
business?
don't do much relocation. I've done it before when I was a younger agent, but too much time, energy, you gotta do reports every week or 2 weeks. I do, if I want the listing, I try to tell my seller that I have a relationship, to insist on working with myself, and then I kind of go back through the files and say, I've worked with these folks and haven't worked with you folks yet, but I know how it works. So usually you can work your way in that way. As far as the rates, I don't think it's gonna make much difference in the Columbus, Ohio area. I think the rest of the country can make some difference. I think it's gonna knock out the bottom tier of buyers a little bit. Instead of having 40 people that would take a Dublin home under 350,000, you're gonna have 20. So who cares? You're still gonna have plenty of people competing for that hot market or hot neighborhood.
And this is not the first time interest rates have been this.
Yeah, so, yeah, you gotta keep reminding people that there were, 16, percent, interest rates, not that long ago, so.
I saw a chart yesterday and put it in perspective. It was like, showed how the interest rates were, and shows how they're even going up now, and we're still not even like above like the lowest point of several years ago. So it was crazy to see. I was like, okay, like people should see this chart. I don't have it, but I should have it. But it was good to see. Just it's like, wow, okay, that really does put it in perspective to see.
Right, we're still good. Do you have a listing presentation? And if you do, what are the key components?
I do. So I have, I like to go with I like to take something to leave behind when I go there. I do that for showings too. I just take an information sheet. I just always like to have something to physically hand people. I know a lot of stuff is done virtually now, or over an iPad or things like that, which I appreciate for efficiency. It's actually really nice. But I do have like a nicely put together listing packet that I go with just to leave behind. It's very simple. It's 5 pages. It kind of just goes over our quick general process. Most of the time, I don't even open it. I say, here's our listing, here's our listing packet. I'm going to leave this for you to, review on your own time. I'll go through the process with you now. And then I kind of just turn it into a conversation. It's rare that we flip through it. If in the instance that we do, I kind of just breeze through it. It has general information about myself and my team. And I have one specific to my neighborhood. So then it has, the recent sales that I've done in that building, and in that neighborhood, general information about my team, our support staff, and then kind of just goes into the process. But it's very quick and clean. I really don't spend too much time on it. I try to go into listing presentations and really just turn it into a conversation and connect. And my number one thing I always do in a listing appointment is I try to schedule a follow-up before I leave. And so I always offer to have my my clients' homes cleaned by a cleaning company that I work with before we get listing photos. And I always try to schedule that date before I leave their house. Or, so I'll go to a presentation, and even if they don't say like 100% we're working with you, or we're like sign paperwork, I say, so when can we look at getting some photos? I'd love to have, Maria come over and with her crew and clean up the place. Get it perfect condition for photos. And I try to get that date on the books, because I find like once you have kind of a set date, then it's just like a done deal. So I've always done that.
That's smart. Do you pay for that?
I do, yeah. So I've always just done that. It's actually, I forget, I think I saw it on TV. And I've stuck with it forever, but it works because people always confirm a date. And I just feel like whenever, like everyone's probably had a listing appointment where you go and you feel really good about it, then you don't hear anything, and then you hear back like a week later and it's like, we decided to go a different direction. You're like, well, that's weird. I felt like everything went perfectly, And so it's like you kind of feel, you're like, wow, that's really disappointing. Yeah. So it's like, so every time I've done that, trying to make an appointment, if someone's willing to confirm an appointment, then it's like, all right, it's done. So I always try to do that with every listing appointment I go on.
That's good. What about you, Jen? Listing presentation?
Yeah, Roger and I are basically the same person.
Oh, I love it. Well, you know what? Yeah, success leaves clues.
I actually use the command listing presentation, and
Awesome.
then we just tweak it. And then we add in some of our own papers. Like I have a realtor resume that I put as the first page on the inside that just lists my experience, how long I've been in the business, credentials, achieved, I guess. And then standard command stuff, and then we do like, put the comps in there too, and then we bind it and it looks all pretty. Last page is about my team. We also have pre-listing services, paper cleaning, and
Do you really?
a couple other things.
Oh, wow.
So we have a pamphlet in there about all the pre-listing services that we offer to our clients, to
Okay.
get their house ready to sell. That's
That's so cool, but you are the same person. All right, Steve, you clean houses.
I'm probably a little bit different. I come with a 2-page listing presentation. It's written every single time. I tell people I have a marketing plan specifically to your home. And then I have, what I call the brag book, and I'll pass it around if anybody wants to look through
Oh,
there.
cool.
So it's got, the listing presentation there. I'll spend 15 minutes on this, then I'll kind of go through the brag book and open to certain pages, so I can talk another 15 minutes in there. Talks about rankings, where I am in certain areas. I think it's good to know your numbers. If you're not the best person in that building or that neighborhood, then you will work around those numbers. You go to the office numbers. I always talk about the 350 people here that can help us sell the property for top dollar and keep it in-house. So those are the little things that, I really focus on, my marketing plan, and all the information. I want people to know if it goes sideways, that this is all the things that are being done to command 6% commission. A lot of people don't want to pay that, but after they get done and if they're in a competitive listing presentation, I guarantee you, I'm puking so much stuff on them that they're like, man, you came prepared, So somebody comes in with a price and that's all they've got. I'm giving them several documents and a binder and a folder to leave behind with lots of stuff and lots of information. You get a read on who's into numbers, who's not into numbers, that type of thing. But I think you definitely have to have a plan going in with more than, hey, I'm a great, honest agent. Well, hell, I hope you're all honest.
Right.
You want to have, a solid plan. I think is one of the biggest things.
What skill set do you think a listing agent needs? Is there anything in particular that you're like, if I were sitting in the crowd wanting to learn how to be a better listing agent, what could I work on?
I think a lot of it, like I said, is like conversation, being able to go in, reading people, like Steve said, it's like, when you go in, I kind of get a sense for like what people find important, like once you kind of get through the initial conversation. And so some people, if they're like hard stuck on numbers, and it's like, okay, we want to focus on numbers, and like, let's talk about like, what's happened to your property value in the last year, and things like that, then I kind of gear toward that. So I think, what skill set that technically is, maybe just like being able to read people and then being personable and being able to find a connection with everyone. I think, it's interesting, most of my clients are my neighbors ultimately. Living in a building, there are some people that I know really, really well, and there are other people that I've just seen in the hallway, and it's just like quick hello, sometimes not even that, in passing. And so sometimes I know people well, and other times I know nothing about them. It's my first time meeting them. And so kind of being able to make a connection with everyone, on some sort of level, and then kind of being able to, gauge how to connect with them, and doing that really quickly. Because it's not like we have, we're spending weeks of time together. I mean, this is a, 30-ish minute appointment that we're trying to, knock this out in. So I think that's really important, is just kind of being personable and finding a connection with everyone. But also just, I think the number one thing is just being confident in the information that you are providing. I think we're around real estate so much, like everything, like what I do for fun has to do with real estate, and then I do real estate for work. A lot of my friends are realtors, so like,
Yeah.
I just always assume everyone knows everything about real estate, and so you have to remember that most people don't know anything about it. They just have to live in a home. And so when you're giving information, like, you could probably give inaccurate information a lot of times. Not that you want to, but you don't always have to know absolutely everything on the spot. But it's being confident. I get asked questions sometimes, and I'm like, should have known that, but I just, you know, and like, I don't necessarily want to say that sometimes. But I'm confident in my response every time, I'm confident in the information I'm providing, and I think that goes a long way.
And I think people appreciate too, if you don't know something, saying, you know what, actually, let me get back to you on that, and that's another
Yeah,
point
and
of
being
follow-up
confident in
too.
that,
Exactly.
yes.
Like, just to be able to call them back and be like, hey, I found out this answer for you, I mean, they're gonna have so much respect that you didn't sit there and BS your way through it.
And
just,
you
like,
took the time to get back with them, right, and you didn't not follow up, oh, that's good, what skill sets do you think?
I think Roger pretty much covered it all. I mean, I was
Yeah.
gonna say personality, you know, just connecting with somebody and being able to sit there and actually listen to them. You're not there to just talk about yourself the entire time. You can say, well, why are you moving? What's driving this decision, you know? What about your family, you know, like, do you have kids? Like, how do they feel about the move? Just being able to connect with them and like, you know, be on their level and that you're not just there to brag about yourself the whole time. I think people appreciate that connection.
What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I was gonna say listening is one of the biggest things. You have to be able to listen, make notes. If you're writing down lots of things they say, even if you're kind of giving it your own, cliff notes, you know, and you don't know what the hell it even says at the end of the day, you're seeming very interested. And I tell my team, and this is the way the business is all electronic now, you can't build bridges with people you don't know anything about. My wife quizzes me every time, how was the listing presentation? I think it went pretty good. What do you know about them? Oh, shit. This is hard. So you have to kind of quiz, get into that sort of thing, but, you know, I think just definitely getting to know them a little bit. And another thing is ask for the business. You know, it's great to do a great presentation. I never leave without asking them to sign on the dotted line. And my presentation, I'll have 3 kind of touches that we're ready to list tonight. I have the documents with me, I have to sign the card, you know, the cameraman will be here tomorrow, after kind of, you know, your place looks really ready, then I touch on it a couple of times, and then at the very end, I stop and say, you know, could I save you another appointment with another realtor, because I know you've got 2 more appointments set up, would you like to just sign the list tonight? I'll be glad to call those agents and cancel for you if you'd like me to.
Good for you, that's confidence. Kelly, you're doing that next time.
Yeah.
What do you have, Edith?
Well, I had a client in my career said, the only reason we're hiring you is, number one, you stepped over my son and I was junk, and he said, you told him he needed to keep his room
Oh,
clean.
yeah.
And help his mother really appreciated it, and they all sit down as a family, and he said, the kid said, I respect that guy, you know, and then the husband said, you're the only one that tried to close this and ask for business that day.
Wow,
So that all happened in the
Testament.
same place.
that's
So-
very cool.
And the kids sometimes have more input than you think.
Oh, I bet they do. I bet they do. Okay, what advice would you give to an agent that would love to go out of here and land a listing in the next 30 days? How do
You
you
have
get
your
one?
value proposition. What are you offering that other people aren't? What sets you apart? Even if you don't have a lot of sales under your belt, you can still offer something that's gonna set you apart from other people.
So be consistent with whatever you're doing as far as marketing. You know, even if it's, like Steve said, starting small, even if it's just a single street. You know, when I started in Victorian Village, that was becoming like a really popular area in 2014, 15, still is, but really then, and a lot of people were marketing it. I just started writing to my immediate neighbors, like 10 on each side, and was just like very actively marketing to them. I'd let them know of every sale that happened. There's a lot of events that happen down there, so I'd send out a postcard that would, you know, tell them the ComFest was happening this weekend. And other things, you know, like send out notifications for street cleaning and things like that. Anything, I would just constantly, and I'd stay really consistent, reaching out to the same people to kind of get the business. Because to start, I really had no network to work from. So just stay consistent with whatever you're doing.
Go ahead.
So how do you like consistently like take care of your database without seeming too pushy about it?
Yeah, I think that's where you kind of have to have some sort of find the value, you know, because I think if you're just asking for business over and over, like write a list your home, and you're just sending it to the same thing, they're gonna be like annoyed, like, okay, this guy's annoying, you know?
You have to find other
They would think
things.
that anyway. Yeah. But yeah, you definitely have to find other things, and that's what, you know, like one of those, like when I sent out the coupon, and I said that had nothing to do with sales. I mean, my logo and everything was on the bottom of it, my contact information, but that was just a coupon, and said like if you're, you know, getting ready for spring cleaning, here's a $50 off coupon of power washing. So, just kind of finding different ways. I mean, getting creative, talking to someone that's creative if you're not.
We
I'm
do,
not.
my team does, our slogan is buy, sell, give, so we give a portion of our proceeds back to charities, people like that, so then you can use that, every couple months, send out an email or a notification to everybody, hey, here's how much money we've raised for charities over the last 7 months. We do big fundraising events in Marysville, so it's just my team that's doing it, it's our name that's doing it, so at the end of it, hey, we just did one, we raised $4,000, so we sent an email to our whole database saying, hey, we just raised $4,000 for the Hope Center and Sunrise Sanctuary. So just things like that, where are you adding value? When you're adding value, that's a touch you can use to let people know, hey, this is what I'm doing out in the community. So it doesn't have to be about sales, it doesn't have to be about any of that, it's just.
And it doesn't
nice
have to
you
be
out there.
expensive.
No,
It doesn't always have to be a mailer. Like, I remember listening to a top agent once about her, success story, and she door knocked. And
Yeah.
she door knocked for a coat drive for a charity. So she had her name badge on, and she may have said she was in real estate, but she's like, hey, my real estate company, Keller Williams Consultants, is doing a coat drive. Do you have a coat that you'd like to donate? I'll go ahead and take it to the charity today. And it just got her name out there, and that was free.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to a coaching, or not, I was coaching our top producers, something was on Zoom, and basically, this is free, so somebody was saying how they had gone out, and everybody that had a Zoom, or not Zoom, but a Ring doorbell, they stopped and did a 15-second infomercial on that Zoom.
Right?
And they left the car, and if they didn't have a Ring doorbell, you just walk away. But you'd have something you could hand out. Somebody says, what are you doing up here? It's like, well, I was door knocking, I got clients in the neighborhood. So that's what you say, that if I was somebody trying to get a listing, and then if you get your foot in the door, basically, you definitely want to make sure that if they say we're 30 days or 2 months away, you want to make sure every other week they're getting a piece of mail from you, or an email, or a touch phone call. You gotta treat that like, wow, boy, you really give us the service. This is the way I treat all my listing and all my clients. I've told people that are zillionaires that it's like, love to make you feel good that you're getting the concierge service, but this is how we treat you.
But the Ring doorbell thing, was that what they were talking about yesterday?
Yes.
Yes.
I got like half of it, then I'm like, oh, what did I miss?
Yeah, that was it. I thought that was kind of cool.
That is funny.
I'm definitely gonna present that to my team. It's like,
How fun would that be, though? Really, you could make that fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
well, I really screwed this up, but I'd really love to list your home. So
Yeah.
Right?
you start falling all over yourself.
Yeah.
And you
If I
never
didn't
see
look
it, so
too
who
silly.
cares,
This
you
is
know?
me.
But yeah, I think that's a great way to knock on doors without really knocking.
Exactly. Well, our panelists are gonna have to wrap it up. So does anyone have one last question? Did a great job.
You guys are awesome.
Any last tips?
Thank you.
You know what I heard, though? You can't easily run out and get a listing in 30 days, right?
Yeah.
It's about
Time.
consistency and time and building relationships and building rapport. So be patient.
Yeah, it's super hard to get somebody to
Oh,
trust you. with
one
the
more
most
quick
important
question,
aspect.
Edith.
Oh, sorry. What's one of the ways that you've seen a growth with building your database? Because I heard it's mainly all about like your database, so I'm like, how do you build that?
Has anybody seen the 198 people you may know? Have you seen that or passed that out or anything? There's something that says, do you?
Like the bolt from Bold?
Yeah, there's like 198 people that you could add to your database, and I went through there and I have a big data, I have 34,000 people on my phone. So.
34,000?
Yeah, I'll show you. So, so basically, if you, get that paper, and I'll try to send it to you. But
Yeah.
I went through there and there were 48 people that I hadn't even thought about. And I know everybody I know knows I'm a realtor. That's all I ever
Yeah.
talk about. So I'll get that to her and she can kind of send it out to you. But that thing is great. It's your groomer, it's your veterinarian, your dentist, your doctor, your attorney, it's your postman, it's everybody. My UPS guy, I did stuff for him, so you can't come in my office without having a real estate conversation or go on my street. That's
Dana did a really good growing your database as well.
Oh, it's
class
probably on
that-
our YouTube channel.
Yeah, she does a lot of stuff for that,
Yeah.
but pretty much everyone you come across all the time is your database. I mean, it's who you make it, if there's a regular, like honestly, for me in my building, the mailman, Mike delivers to the 4 buildings in that area, and he has to sit in our hallway for like 3 hours while he divvies up the mail.
Oh, my gosh.
And so he talks to everyone and knows everyone. So the fact that he passes out my postcards, he will casually mention my name to people all the time. And he knows when they forward their mail, so if they're getting ready to move. So he's
That's a good friend.
He would be in my top 25 influencers.
Yeah.
I make sure every time I walk down there, he had a nice coffee, find out what his
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
coffee is, and make sure he's.
You know, that's what I was gonna say, yeah, databases are great. I mean, my team's really big into doing events, so a lot of our events you have to RSVP for, get registered for, so then you get email addresses, they're on my database, right? So that's all great, but the relationship stuff like that, dropping a coffee off to somebody, doing the relationship, that's where you're gonna get your business.
Yes.
Where are you out there having a relationship with people? Start a book club in your community, start something, you know, and the more you're establishing relationships, you're not just gonna get business from them, you're gonna get from their parents, their siblings, whoever. That's the biggest, that's the biggest thing.
When a parent says to their son, you've got to use this guy. You know, I'm in a golf league, and somebody asked me last night, are you the resident realtor? I said, well, you're gonna get the shit treatment if you're not using me.
Yeah.
You know, there's 26 people in the golf league, so that's, you know, every one of them knows, you know, several people in private realtors, but I really kind of push it, and you buy them all pizza at the end of the year, or you show up with 2 cases of White Castles and everybody, it doesn't cost you much, but you're doing something they're not expecting, you know.
Do you guys all ask for reviews, and if you do, how do you do that? What is your process, like beginning, the middle, and end?
We send out a review sheet, it's written. I found out if I send out an email one, we were not getting responses back. A stamped envelope with our address back on it, so they can easily check off the boxes and write anything they want. I also ask for the title company review and inspectors and how are the interactions along the way. Because if I get a inspector that was, you know, gets knocked on 2 or 3 times, he's probably gonna get fired. So I like to print, send it after closing, that's just something that goes in the mail, you know, and it gets to them 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe a month after. So, you know, if there was any bumps in the roads, they're pretty much loving the house by then, or if there's an issue, you're gonna hear about that too.
We do send out an email at the end, and we say, congratulations on your new house, or selling your house, or whatever it is. If you received 5-star service, we would love it if you would take a minute to review us, and then we give them the link, so all they do is click it, write a review, and they're done. That's probably 50% of people actually.
Our sheet says, is it okay if we put this online as a review? We ask for that permission, they sign it, they may not even read that part of it, but we feel we can use that. You know, obviously, we don't post negative ones, you know, it's usually not us, it's usually title company or a vendor.
One other thing I would say is I've been doing this for 10 years, and I don't win them all. Sure, not, you guys
Right.
all don't win them all.
Of course.
So, I mean, I just recently had 2, I lost 2 recently where I went on a listing appointment, that was great, we had things scheduled, and I saw it on the MLS.
Oh,
So, it happens, I mean, it happens to people who've been doing this forever, so if it happens to you, don't get discouraged. Keep
Yeah.
going,
Good
because there are
advice.
a billion more to come after that.
Yeah, and the reasoning they didn't give it to you may not be very good reasoning, and you can ask and say, you know,
Well, my brother said that
Well,
I
someone
should
might
use
have-
this because
And they
they.
might have offered a half off commission, you know, like sometimes
don't
they
tell you
reach out
that.
to someone and
they
say.
never say we're cheap bastards and we didn't want to pay 6%.
Yeah.
they don't say that, do they?
And that's what
Thank you,
get from
guys.
us.
This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Fun.
It's good seeing you guys.
Yeah, you
Sorry,
too.